Girlfriend asked to open relationship or go poly. Guess the rest. Apologies in advance for the long post. Throwaway because she knows my forum handle, I know. So I've been dating this hetero woman, 27 female, for 2 years. Before me, she had previously dabbled with open relationships but had never been in a full-blown polyamorous relationship. On our third date, we went out to a club and she asked if she could invite another guy who she had a thing with. I agreed. She ended up kissing both me and him. It was the first time I did anything of the sort. It was definitely not something I felt comfortable with because it was new to me and because I really liked her, but I went on with it. Then on, our first 2 months seeing each other were a time of non-exclusivity, fun, and sex. Both her and I were vocal that we were seeing other people and consented to it, but I fell for her hard and told her. I asked to become exclusive and she was taken aback, but after some days, she came to me with a positive response. It was then when I first outlined my 2 red lines, deal breakers. 1. I'm monogamous and I don't consent to any type of physical, romantic, or sexual intimacy with people outside our relationship. 2. If you feel something escalating, don't let it escalate further, i.e., if you see someone demonstrating romantic affection, disengagement would be the only option over letting things stay the way they are, much less over engaging actively. She agreed to these. As we grew into a full-blown couple, I made clear and promoted the idea of always trying to deal with things either before they happened or as they were happening. We made example of this when talking about kids, ambitions, life plans, and retirement. These conversations were always so enriching and comforting and helped us connect to a new level. She's always been turned on when I tell her stories of other girls demonstrating romantic or physical interest in me. Besides cucking, I believe there is a term for this, but I can't remember right now. In the same light, she was surprised this was not the case for me. Listening to stories of guys demonstrating interest in her was definitely not a turn on. 12 months into our relationship, she started throwing what seemed like petty, innocent hints at polyamory. They began with, "Aren't you turned on or interested in other girls?" My response was, "Yes, but I don't let it escalate to the physical plane." It seemed that she liked them, and sex with her was great when it started after this type of talk. The hints became more frequent. Then came, "What would happen if I kissed a girl and a boy?" My responses were always trying to negatively reinforce these ideas. I was always confidently, but non-aggressively, rejecting. Showing reluctance to these hints, I started proposing having threesomes, to which she dismissively and condescendingly said, "I'm in, but threesomes don't just appear out of thin air." She started mega casually referencing this book, The Ethical Slut. I showed interest, but again, came back to my deal breakers. About 18/20 months into our relationship, the frequency with which her hints on polyamory were being dropped began increasing much more. The one that broke the camel's back came 24 months into the relationship, after sex, when she casually said, "What if you started liking other people?" My reaction at first was again dismissive, but then it struck me. I asked her back. This spiraled into a full argument about her not being made for monogamy, at odds with my view of relationship, and finished with, "How the hell am I going to tell my parents that we're breaking up?" It struck me as an overly extreme way to react, so I told her it was time we had a conversation on polyamory and open relationships. So I sat her down and she basically told me that she loved me but had a lot much love to give. She told me she saw me as a primary partner whom she felt safe with, whom to return to, but that she wanted to explore the breadth of her love. I told her that we saw each other weekly, and while we were very compatible and connected, I feel there was so much more to learn and fall in love by from this relationship. I told her our love had not yet reached the depth it could. I asked her if there was someone in her mind. She confirmed there was. I've began feeling things for other people. I asked how many. She said there's clearly one guy. She mentioned that she had been physical with this guy, saying there had been sexual hugs, but nothing else. For the remainder of that talk, the direction the conversation went towards was me asking for more details about this guy, specifically a timeline of events. She did not address this request. When we resumed the talk, she brought a letter, again, outlining that her love could not be confined inside a water bottle like a liquid, but that it must roam free as a gas, ever expanding. She also brought this book about a psychologist she often references, Esther Perel, The State of Affairs. We read a chapter of it together. In hindsight, this essentially feels like coercion to agree to a non-monogamous relationship. I told her I wanted a timeline of events with this guy, which she still didn't provide. I told her I had made my position on monogamy clear from the beginning, and that my red lines were there to protect me. We had to cut the conversation short for external reasons. A third time, we resumed the conversation. There, I had to ask again for a timeline of events, which in this instance, I had to ask 3 times, the last of which was finally met with an answer. This guy was a work best friend, married, monogamously. 13 months into our relationship, he had tested the waters of whether she was in a non-monogamous relationship a year ago, saying, I am in an E&M. Well, actually, I'm not, but I could be. Essentially throwing a massive hint at her. He had confessed his love for her 14 months into our relationship, 11 months from today. She didn't do anything, didn't tell me. She let it grow into an emotional bond. He had been openly flirtatious with her. She then said that 18 months into our relationship and 7 months from today, they had gone out multiple times where he had tried kissing him. They hugged sexually. Him and her agreed that they could not let this develop further and that they should speak to their respective SOs. But she didn't. That moment was when she innocently asked me, what would happen if I kissed a girl and a boy? She went on to say that they had gone on coffee dates, been physically intimate with one another, caressing, holding hands, touching sensually. This has been happening for the past 4 months. I had to ask 3 times before she finally confessed to have kissed him. I replied, we're done. I stood up and left. I feel fooled to assume she would address this as it was taking place and in a mature way. I would have hoped for her to had sat me down and first confessed to the affair and then let me consider my choices. Instead, she threw petty, immature hints at me. It was me who had to propose having a conversation. She began the conversation by polybombing me and not being truthful. I feel manipulated and as if I don't know the person I've been dating. Not to mention how much of a dumbass I feel for having lived in a lie for the past 11 months. I've told her we are done. I do not think she's handled this properly, and she's completely broken my trust, beyond repair. Her reaction to my decision was, I thought this was a safe space for me to express myself. This is exactly what I feared you'd do. Leave. I find this incredibly immature and outside reality, borderline sociopathy. I'm not sure I know the person I've been dating for the past 2+ years. On a final note, I think I should have done a better job at interpreting the hints she dropped. However, since she was the type to get turned on by stories of me getting hit on by other girls, I initially interpreted these as just a way to verbally turn her on. In any case, and even if this is no longer my concern, I honestly believe she's not ready for an open relationship. When she referenced the books I mentioned, honesty, communication, and trust were always the pillars of a successful non-monogamous relationship. She's behaved exactly the opposite way. My sincere best luck to the next guy who dates her. My main feeling is that I've dodged a bullet, though. I'm doing better than expected. I'll take some time to reflect and digest emotions, but I feel I've got things clear and I'm ready to start looking again. Peas. An ex-fling messaged me after the second conversation with my now ex, asking to hang out with me. I told her I was in a relationship and that unless we involved her, it was a no-go. She asked for pics, agreed, and offered some dates to meet up. I guess that threesomes do appear out of thin air, to sum everything up. Girlfriend asked to open relationship or go poly. By the end of the conversation, she confessed to cheating. I showed her the door.
Wow, let's read the comments on this one. Anytime you hear the name Esther Pearl, you know monogamy is out of the window. Underrated comment. It's actually true. If you're talking to someone into E&M and they reference Esther Pearl, run. Those people likely have distorted understandings of the E in E&M. Someone said she has or had someone in mind, right? Probably already did stuff. I'm sorry you're going through this. Generally speaking, if you don't enter into a relationship with the mindset that you can do open poly, it hurts your partner to switch things up halfway through. It doesn't feel consensual and they feel pressured into essentially legitimizing your straying. And they almost always have started the process of having an affair and now just want things to be open because that's more culturally accepted. So they won't be branded as a cheater if stuff comes out. And to themselves, they're saying this is a way to get what I need sexually without hurting your feelings. Here's OP. Yeah, there's one person already and they already did stuff. You're exactly right on how she's framing the whole thing. And at least we have very few friends in common and they've already agreed with me. She's twisting reality to justify her actions. Of course. Of course she is. Lots of conversations. You'll finally get truth. Don't believe her story. Just block her. She's already cheating. You're just wasting your time. At some point, she'll dump you anyway. I'm surprised you lasted as long as you did. She clearly wasn't ever going to be monogamous. Best of luck, mate. Yeah, guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments. I'm going to catch you guys at the next one.